What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Tuesday, August 27th. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, the Sports Talk app. Stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Also, you got the video streams, YouTube and Facebook here this morning. Appreciate you making us part of your start. Hopefully, everything's, if you got hit by the storms last night, hopefully you're all good. You got power and such. But what do we got on our game plan for us this morning? Cut down day today for the Packers. Got to get down to their 53 player roster by this afternoon's deadline. And the Packers making a move, making a trade yesterday. Obviously, we knew one of the perhaps the biggest question marks was backup quarterback. A lot of Packers fans had some concerns about it, had some questions about it. And you weren't alone, apparently, because apparently the Packers and Goody and the team also had some question marks and some concerns about it, too. Uh, player for the Titans yesterday was probably going to be released after, they got Will Levis. They signed Mason Rudolph in the offseason to be their backup quarterback. So it seemed like Malik Willis was probably going to be cut. But instead, the Packers sending a seventh round pick to ensure that they were able to acquire him and to get him on their roster. So sure seems like that's going to be your backup quarterback this year. Maybe not right away against Philadelphia. Maybe Green Bay decides to keep Pratt or something as a primary backup until Malik Willis is caught up on the playbook and all that good stuff there. But your thoughts on the move? I've got a few. I think the best way I could describe this is, meh. Okay, sure, get it. But in some aspects, I don't get it. So we'll explain that coming up a little bit later on. But nonetheless, that was pretty much it for the pack yesterday. And no surprise that Green Bay's kind of taking this up to the deadline here when it comes to their roster. But we should start to see some moves this morning. I'm sure some of the beat reporters, player or writers who cover the team, I'm sure we're going to start to get some word out there who has been released, who has been cut, and that sort of thing. So we'll know what the initial 53-man roster for the Packers will be by at some point today, because Green Bay is always a little bit late in making everything officially official too. So, but we'll see how the timeline goes here today. So we'll talk a little green and gold. We'll talk about the Malik Willis trade here for the pack and such. Get to that coming up here. Also, Brewers are going to be back in action tonight as they're back at home for a couple games. They welcome the San Francisco Giants, a Giants team that is trying to get into this wild card chase. They're sitting at 500 right now, 66-66 on the season. Brewers still remain 10 games up in first place. Cubbies and Cardinals keep going back and forth here a little bit. Cubs are now 10 games back there. But tonight on the mound, we're going to get Tobias Myers. He's going to get the start for the Crew. And then Logan Webb going to get the start for the Giants. And in fact, there's really not a whole lot of experience with, even though they're in the National League, not a ton of experience between these Brewers hitters and Logan Webb. When you look at Willie Adames has a couple games worth, Hoskins has about a game's worth, same for Terang. So little unfamiliarity. But Tobias Myers, again, looking at it from the Giants' perspective, Only guy who's got some experience is former teammate Mark Canna for half a season last year. I don't even know if they were teammates, in terms of where they are up at the major league roster at the same time for Tobias. I don't think so. Don't quote me though. But we'll preview that game tonight here as the Brewers still trying to inch a little bit closer and closer to having one of those top two spots in the National League here. They're in that chase here for between the Dodgers and the Phillies for one of those top two spots with 32 games left to go for the Brew Crew. Just 32 left to go here as we are in the final week of the month of August right now. In terms of standings wise here for the Brewers, they're still 2.5 back from the Dodgers for first, but 1.5 back from Philly for second right now. So, as we were talking a little bit yesterday, got some good series that either started yesterday or will start today. So, got some really good competitive games coming up here that could have not only playoff implications but seedings within the playoffs. Those type of deals. So we had Kansas City taking down Cleveland 4-3 last night. Philly, one of those teams that the Brewers is chasing for one of those top two spots. They defeated Houston in extra innings 3-2. Um, and then Kansas City, yeah, Kansas City won both games against Cleveland. So and then the Twins fell to the Atlanta Braves 10-6. But got some good ones coming up here with the Dodgers and Baltimore going at it tonight too. So we'll talk some baseball. We're gonna talk some Badgers as we are closer and closer to kickoff for this Badger football season. Friday night. RJ Cardinal will be joining us in a couple hours to break it down and preview this game and take a look at the upcoming season for this Badger football team. So RJ will be joining us at about 8:20, 8:25 here this morning to talk all things Badgers, Badger football, and then we'll talk just some college football in general. Already got started off with a little bit of an upset with Florida State, 10th ranked Florida State falling to Georgia Tech over the weekend, 24-21. Got games already starting on Thursday. Quite a big slate of games starting on Thursday, and just a few of those on Friday, and then of course Saturday. Clemson, number 14, taking on number one Georgia. Definitely going to be one to watch over there too. So, but we'll talk some college football, talk some Badger football with RJ Cardinal. And just a couple hours from now, it is also a Grind My Gears Tuesday. It's an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So, what's grinding at your gears? You can get it off your chest right now by hitting us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line 715-830-1912. All right, check it out over there. What else is on your mind? Got a topic or got a question or got a thought? You can send those puppies on over here too. All right, let us know. But we're going to get things rolling here this morning. Coming up on the leadoff, we're going to start it off with the trade. Packers yesterday sending a seventh round pick. It is not a conditional pick. Not a conditional pick. It's a straight up seventh round pick to acquire Malik Willis. It's obvious that the Packers felt like they needed an improvement at the backup quarterback position, and they feel like Malik Willis can do that for this team. So, what are your thoughts on it? I've got a few thoughts on it, probably more than a few thoughts on it. What was your reaction when you first heard it? I was kinda like, "Yeah, okay." I don't think it's really anything to get too pumped up about it. First of all, it's a backup quarterback, okay? No offense to Malik Willis. But if we're getting jacked up about a backup quarterback here, I mean, come on now. I think it's fair to say if Jordan Love is gonna be missing any time, any extended amount of time, season's probably 9 times out of 10, probably not gonna go that well. But I think the biggest thing was when you acquire a backup quarterback, when you have a backup quarterback, you've gotta answer this one question, especially if you're a team like the Packers in the position that you're in. You've got Super Bowl goals, you've got Super Bowl aspirations this year. You are in, I would say, a very competitive division this year and for the foreseeable future. You have to answer this one question. If Malik Willis has to start a couple of games, you confident he can go out there and win those games for you? They probably feel a little bit more confident about him than what they saw from Pratt and Clifford. And how confident? That's in a game or 2 this year within this division, within this conference, that can make all the difference too. So, let's, discuss it in a little bit more detail, shall we? We'll take the first break, and then we'll get the, leadoff going here. Cut down day for the Packers. We'll keep you posted if anything, pops up this morning while we are on in terms of some Packers moves, roster moves, and such. So, quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to get things going. Outdoorsmen, people who love to head outside and partake in some outdoor activities, whether it be hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, whatever the case may be. If you feel like you are the ultimate Wisconsin outdoorsman, I got a quest for you. Prove it. Starting September 1st, going through August 31st of 2025 is the ultimate Wisconsin outdoorsman quest slash challenge, whatever the case may be. We've got a checklist, if you will, worked on with experts in the fields and such to make sure we could put a bunch of different stuff on there. And yes, we probably missed a couple of them on there, but hey, it's year one and such. But if you go to sportstalk1051.com and click on the outdoors tab, you can find out more information and to check out the official checklist. But essentially, what it is if you spend a lot of time in the outdoors, maybe you do a little hunting, maybe you do a little camping, maybe you do a little hiking, fishing, that sort of stuff. Show us. All you got to do is like, so if you go hunting and let's say you get a doe with your bow, all right, snap a photo, upload that thing with the little note card or something like that with the date on there, so we know nobody cheats because you'd like to say nobody cheats, but people cheat every single day. So and we could tell too if it's an old photo. We got ways, so don't cheat. All right, otherwise you're going to be DQ'd. But this is just a kind of a way to kind of showcase how many different things you can do. So we got that. We've got even like if you go out foraging for morel mushrooms, if you're hiking a trail, if you're going to be doing some ice fishing, heck, finding a deer shed, that sort of stuff. Got a huge checklist on there, and it's for adults and youth divisions. All right, but the more you check off, the better your chances are going to be crowned the ultimate Wisconsin outdoorsman. Again, more details at our website, sportstalk1051.com. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning, shall we? Let's talk a little green and gold. Um, oh, okay. I thought we had a little breaking news from Adam Schefter. This is kind of interesting, but Schefter saying in new NFL world, NFL owners will vote today on a proposal that will allow teams to sell up to a total of 10% of each team to a list of permitted private equity firms. Costs of business, cost of teams going up in the NFL, so they got to find a way to make sure they can still sell teams if that's the case, if it needs to be if that ever needs to happen. So, but it is cut down day for the pack here. We'll know by this afternoon, early evening, what the roster is, what the initial 53-man roster is for the Packers. Say initial because we know it could change and such. Now, there's a couple different rules this year when it comes to the Packers, or for other teams too. But in the past, you'd have to carry somebody if somebody was hurt and you wanted to keep them and such. You'd have to put them on your roster, then, put them on injured reserve. And then after you put them on your roster, your initial 53, and then you can bring back somebody. Now you can put somebody on your injured reserve with a designation return. You can do that for a couple guys there. So that's in play this year. That's a little bit different. Could that be for guys like maybe a Marshawn Lloyd or such? Absolutely, could be. But again, it all depends on how quick they think, him or maybe an AJ Dillon could be back on the field in that. So definitely some tough decisions. They were working on it throughout the whole weekend. As soon as that game was done, that they were working on it and trying to figure it out. I'm sure some decisions are a little bit easier than others in that, but nonetheless, it's going to be a tough day too for a lot of these players. Again, remember, us fans probably don't realize it, but for some of these guys, their dreams may be over with after today. So it's a little bit of a downer that way too. But Packers already making a move yesterday by acquiring backup quarterback Malik Willis. Malik Willis with the Titans was originally a third-round pick a couple of years ago in the NFL draft in the 2022 NFL draft. There was some thoughts heading into that. Remember that draft? Quarterback talent was kind of like, meh. There were some thoughts that maybe he could jump into that first round there, ended up falling to the third round. You want to go just a quick refresher on some of his draft profiles. I mean, he does have a good arm. He does have a good arm, a strong arm up there in terms of distance and that. The biggest thing is the accuracy. Is the accuracy from him, but he's kind of a dual threat quarterback over there too, so can move around in the pocket and such. But he spent obviously the last couple years with the Titans, got a couple games in, 1-2 overall record, but he was on the brink of probably being cut after last year. The Titans drafted Will Levis, and then this offseason they brought in Mason Rudolph to be the backup quarterback, longtime backup quarterback. Got some action as a starter last year for the Steelers and that. So Malik Willis was kind of the odd man out. So to ensure that the Packers would be able to get him, they sent the Titans a 7th round pick. Obviously, backup quarterback was a position that a lot of Packers fans thought the team needed to upgrade. After what we saw from Pratt and what we saw from Sean Clifford, it was obvious that a lot of Packers fans were a little concerned, had some questions about the backup spot. And obviously the Packers agreed with you. They agreed with every Packers fan out there about, the backup quarterback position from what they saw at preseason, what they saw throughout training camp. I think the biggest thing that's probably disappointing is regression. Yeah, I think it's obvious that it's regression from Sean Clifford. I think we saw stuff last year at training camp and preseason. It's like, oh, okay, a little gunslinger mentality. He's got a nice arm and that. And we didn't really see that this year. Now, was he a result of, the product on the field in terms of like, well, he was stuck with backups and such, and did that affect that? It possibly. But here's the other thing too. We only see what we see, whether it's on TV or if we go to practice. Goody, LaFleur, they see a whole lot more and they know a whole lot more. So I trust what they feel like they needed to do when it comes to the backup quarterback position here. So Malik Willis is a guy that he's an athletic dude, and he's got a lot of positive stuff. He could potentially be an electric quarterback, a dual threat type quarterback. He's got the arm strength over there. The biggest issues for him is the accuracy, as we mentioned. And he had good preseason numbers this year. But again, I don't want to overreact to good preseason numbers because we've been down that path before with our backup quarterbacks, Brett Hundley being one of them. Okay. So I don't want to put a lot of stock in preseason statistics, preseason box scores. I don't want to put anything into that. But if you watch a little bit, he played well. I thought he played well. Here's my thought. So is Malik Willis an upgrade over Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt? Probably. He probably is. The thing that makes me go, a little bit is if he's still a project, like a lot of people believe he still is, like if he's still a guy that you're still trying to work on molding and trying to improve and kind of put it all together, is that the best option to have as your backup quarterback right now? Like Michael Pratt, a rookie, he's also a guy you want to develop. And if Malik Willis still has that develop tagged on him, like a lot of people who are way smarter than us feel like that he's got that develop tag on him, is that the best option to be, your next man up if, knock on wood, something were to happen to Jordan Love? Or would your best option be somebody who is just ready to go? Maybe not as talented as Jordan Love because they'd be a backup, but you kind of know what you already got with the guy. That's where it kind of makes me go, meh, a little bit here. I do think Malik is an upgrade over Pratt and over Clifford. I think he can do some more stuff. I think, obviously the accuracy, you'd like to see that get better. You'd like to see that improve and such. I think there's things to work with there. I pause a little bit when we ask the question of, is he good enough to win you a couple of games? And he's won one game. He's 1-2 in his career. So I mean, he's got that more than what Clifford or Pratt have, obviously. But if you acquired him as a developmental quarterback, I think the question is that the best option to have as your primary backup? Last year you could have a rookie backup quarterback in Sean Clifford. They could say, their goals and are always the same, competing for championships, but we're not complete fools. We know what's going on or what the realistic goals should be and such. This year, you've got a team that's got Super Bowl goals, a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and what I think is a very difficult division. And it's going to be some tough battles, even between Bears and the Vikings. There's talent all across, and we know about Detroit, defending champs over there. So there could be an instance where a game or maybe a couple games is the difference, not only in the division, but maybe for the conference overall. And so if, knock on wood, he has to go out there and start a couple games, how confident are you? Now, on the flip side of this, how confident are we always in backup quarterbacks to begin with, regardless of who they are, right? I mean, if Jordan Love's going to miss some extended time, if he's going to miss some extended time, chances are 9 times out of 10 might not be that great of a season. Might not be able to get in there. Now, 2013 being the exception where Green Bay kind of hung around and every other team around them just started to fold and stayed in there. And then we know what happened, walk off, kind of a walk-off touchdown, not really a full-on walk-off, but Rodgers comes back, touchdown to Cobb against the Bears, yada, yada, yada. So regardless of who the backup quarterback is, if you got to throw your backup quarterback in there to play a lot, chances are you're probably not going to win a bunch of games unless you have the next Tom Brady or you have the next Brett Favre or whatever the case may be. So that's why I'm kind of like 50-50 on the move. I'm very like meh. I'm very like, okay, it's got untapped potential there. He's kind of, he's got a little bit of experience over there. We're not throwing out a fresh arm if we have to. We're not throwing out a rookie if we have to. He's a guy who's been around the league, but yeah, it's 50-50 for me. I'm not trying to, you know, pick avoid trying to pick a side or anything like that. It's just it doesn't really move the meter. But again, why should we get so pumped up or so excited about a backup quarterback? It's a backup quarterback for a reason. I know he's like the second most important or the second most popular position on the team because if you have a starter, but that starter is not very good or not very well liked by the fan base, the next most popular player is your backup quarterback. Everybody wants that backup in then. That's not the case right now for Green Bay. So I think sometimes we maybe make too big of a deal in terms of who your backup quarterback is going to be. But I don't want to dumb down the importance of the position of it because I think it's incredibly important. I think it's very, very, very important. And you look at last year, when we got to you look at some of these playoff teams from last year. Look at a couple of those teams that had backup quarterbacks that helped them get to the postseason, right? I mean, you look no further than last year's teams, a couple of them. The Colts with Gardner Minshew. Richardson gets hurt. In steps Gardner Minshew. Or I should say they got close to the playoffs. But, that. No, yeah. But, remaining competitive into that thing. Colts didn't get they lost that last game against the Texans. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. The Browns with Joe Flacco. Right? Joe Flacco became elite again. Steelers, we mentioned them already. Mason Rudolph was getting starts at the end of the year, ended up starting the postseason game. So, I mean, you look at how that season finished last year. with teams still in contention with the backup quarterback, teams getting in with the backup quarterback. That's why it's still important to have a have that position filled with somebody you are really confident in that they can go in there and maybe, obviously not be as talented as your starter or be as a big of a game changer as your starter, but you're like, you know what? I still like our chances with this guy in there. And that ultimately that is the main question when it comes to a guy like Malik Willis. Green Bay feels like he is an upgrade. I would agree that I think he is an upgrade over a Pratt, over a Sean Clifford. But was that the best option out there? And, I think maybe in a couple years, he could be if you are able to get him into the room and you can develop him a little bit. I know that's one thing that a lot of Packers fans were going out there, or a lot of people are saying, hey, get him into that Packers quarterback room. And then, he could really, start to improve and start to develop. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I'll counter with that then and say what happened with Clifford in year 2 then? Or why weren't they that confident in being able to do that with Michael Pratt? So, regardless, I hope we don't have to see Malik Willis. No offense to Malik, I hope we don't have to see the guy. I hope we don't have to see him play any meaningful snaps. If anything, get in there and get your knee a little bit dirty with some victory formations. Okay? That's all I want to see from Malik Willis in the regular season this year. Again, no offense to the guy or anything like that. I'm sure he's a cool cat. I'm sure he's a wonderful human being. I don't want him playing meaningful snaps for the Packers this year. That's just me. So, your thoughts, you can let us know. Hit us up with some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with more to finish up the first hour after these quick words. Next Friday, we're going to be over at Hy-Vee doing our program in honor of Green Bay kicking off the season. We'll do a little tailgate show over there from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So stop on by. We're going to do a little thing too. If you, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., purchase any swag from their sports shop, like Green and Gold swag and that, come by, show it to us, and we'll enter you to win some stuff too. So, or from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., that's when you can start sell it. If you stop by and pick up some Man Cave Light, a 6-pack of the new and improved Man Cave Light, stop by and show it to us that hey, I purchased it up. You're going to be entered over there too. So that'll be next Friday, September 6th, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So if you can't stop by, but you maybe want to drive by and do a little, beep of the horn and yell a little "Go Pack Go" or something like that too, go for it, man. All right, get in the mood for a football Friday. It's gonna be a football Friday this Friday though too, because we've got the Badgers kicking off. Well, it's been a football Friday for the last week or so too, with high school football and such too, but really kicks it into gear with everything in action starting next week, no doubt about it. So, but speaking of Badgers, we're going to talk with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up at about 8:20, 8:25. We'll talk some Badger football with him, preview the game coming up on Friday, and preview the upcoming season. Think about two Badger fans when we get to RJ. Give me some of your preseason predictions when it comes to this Badger football team. Okay. Now, I know we've talked at length about the schedule, how difficult it is for the Badger football team. You got the expansion of the Big Ten and such. But now that kickoff is just a couple of days away, a few days away here. What are your predictions for this Badger football team? And I'll kind of leave it open. If you just want to do a record prediction, you could do that. If you want to do some bold predictions, player wise or game wise, I don't care. All right. It's that time of year. So, reminder, they got Western Michigan, then it's South Dakota, then it's Alabama on the 14th, bye week before they head out west to take on USC, Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern, and this stretch run where they've got Penn State, Iowa, and Oregon. Penn State and Oregon are all at home at Camp Randall. Nebraska, then, of course, the battle for the axe to wrap up the regular season against Minnesota, that is also at Camp Randall. So, I mean, on one hand, you got a difficult schedule. On the other hand, games against Alabama and Penn State and Oregon, all at Wisconsin at Camp Randall. So, moral of the story, let's make Camp Randall a freaking, home field advantage over there, right? So, but what are some of your predictions for this upcoming Badger football season? Do you think they will be a little bit of a surprise this year? Do you think they'll be a little bit of a surprise? Maybe shock some people? Or kind of meh? That's kind of been the phrase or the word of the day. Meh. Maybe around I know a lot of you have in the past said, a couple months ago when we were kind of hitting us up, said about 8-4 and such. Anybody willing to go higher than that? Last year it was full of a lot of optimism, a lot of high expectations. First year of Luke Fickell. You had some people saying just one loss, and we know how that season transpired, how it went down and such. So what are you kind of thinking about year two for Luke Fickell? Or what are your, maybe the other part of this too is, what are your realistic expectations for this ball club? What would happen, be like, yeah, okay, this is my realistic expectation and I'm good with it. Maybe I'm realistically hoping, expecting for an 8-4 season. And if that were to happen, good. But then, it ups the ante here a little bit in the next few years there. So think about that for a little bit. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. All right, 715-830-1912. Good note here, by the way, from Field Yates from ESPN. So by 3 o'clock today, all 32 NFL teams must reduce their rosters down to 53 players. Here's a couple other notes though, as he mentions. The vast majority of these moves will be made by releasing or waiving players. A player with 4 or more years of service is a vested veteran and thus is outright released. Those players can sign with another team as soon as possible. A non-vested veteran is subject to the NFL's waiver system. So you're talking about, you know, guys that have less than 4 years of experience on there. Teams can also reduce their roster by keeping players on the pup list. These players are ineligible to return to game action any sooner than week 5. Don't think that'll be the case for Green Bay in this one. Um, Teams also will be placing players on injured reserve. This year, a new rule is in place. Teams may designate up to 2 players placed on IR at the cutdown as eligible to return after at least 4 games missed. In prior years, a player had to be on the team's initial 53-man roster for one business day to be eligible to return. Kind of mentioned that already. I'm looking at that as that could that be a Marshawn Lloyd, depending on the severity of AJ Dillon's issues? Could that be a possibility for him too? Think about that in the back of your mind there. On Wednesday at 11 o'clock, our time. So tomorrow at 11 o'clock, the league will process waiver claims submitted on any player that was placed on waivers. The priority of the waiver claim order matches the original 2024 NFL draft order. Number 1 is Carolina. So even though Chicago drafted first, Carolina has the number 1 priority order. Kansas City will be dead last. The waiver is a useful tool to mine for young developmental talent. And then, as he notes, and it's something as we mentioned a little bit earlier, today will just be the initial 53-man roster. Countless more roster moves are ahead in advance to week 1. I think now that the backup quarterback thing has been kind of adjusted, or not adjusted, but all right, so there you go. You had the warning over there for anybody in those counties, Eau Claire County, Chippewa, and all that sort of stuff. So that's obviously going to be happening while a lot of you will be driving to work. So be careful out there. Be extra careful out there. Okay. But what I was saying before I realized we had the warning talking over here was now. I mean, I think now that the backup quarterback position has kind of been addressed, think the biggest thing now that maybe Packers fans are going to be looking at today is probably the kicking, right? I mean, is what other position are you kind of intrigued, or what other position group are you intrigued to see what Green Bay does today? I feel like it's kicker. Will they go out there and make a move to acquire a different kicker, or will they go with Anders and then see what the waiver wire looks like? Think to me, that's gonna be the next, interesting move here. Obviously, yes, it's gonna be the back end of, some of the offensive linemen that they keep, who are gonna be like the final couple of wide receivers between Bo Melton, Malik Heath, Grant, and that over there too. And then, I'm really curious too to see what happens with the running back depth. Does Marshawn Lloyd go on injured reserve? Does A.J. Dillon go on injured reserve? Do none of those guys go on injured reserve? And maybe they keep 4 running backs. So the Lloyd one is got to be a difficult one because not only is he recovering from a pulled hamstring from the first preseason game, but remember too, he missed a lot of practice time in training camp. So I don't know. I don't envy some of the decision makers today when it comes to Goody and LaFleur and that. I think they've got a good idea where things are going, but I'm sure they're not full on set with the final roster. So, but again, we'll keep you posted if anything does happen to pop up in the next couple hours while we are on the air here this morning. So we're going to talk some Brewers coming up next hour. Brew Crew back in action tonight, taking on the San Francisco Giants. You've got Tobias Myers on the mound. Logan Webb is on the mound for the Giants. So we'll take a look at that of game 1 of a 3-game series. Tobias Myers coming off of that game against the Cardinals where he went 4 innings, giving up 2 earned runs on 6 hits. Overall, he's 6-5 with a 2.87 ERA, easily one of the best pitchers since the beginning of June. Logan Webb is coming off of a no decision against the White Sox back on the 21st, where he had 8 innings, pitched 8 innings, gave up 5 hits and 2 earned runs. Logan Webb, in his last few games, though, has been dealing. Got 9 innings July 1st or July 31st he pitched, then 5 2/3, and 7, then 7 2/3, and then 8. So we'll talk some Brewers coming up next hour. Finish up with Morgan. Good morning, Morgan.
Well, hey, good morning, Kasper. Smells good in here.
Yeah.
You got some good coffee going on. That's a good call.
Yeah.
So baseball from the big leagues to the little leagues. Did you see the Little League Championship?
I did watch Florida's last 2 games.
Did you see that bunt to the end? Okay.
Yep.
And then the sportsmanship after that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was thinking that it made me wonder, you got a history, kind of a litany of sports experiences over the years. Do you have any sportsmanship memories that stand out to you or that you've seen recently with Hudson? Not the bad kind, because I know we always hear about the, parents in the stands or bad displays or that kind of thing.
Stink.
Yeah, parents kind of. But seeing the kids, man, and then all the tears in the Little League field, and they were coming to that. Obviously, the kid knew that he kind of lost the game for the team, but everybody.
That's what bugs me about Little League. Like, I love watching that on ESPN.
Yeah.
But and the parents are so geeked up, like they're putting a lot of pressure on the kids.
And then they'll pan to their hometowns and they'll have these big parties going on and stuff in bars.
I feel bad for those kids. Then when a play like that, or even like the game prior where Texas lost the lead, I felt bad for the pitcher on the mound.
Yeah.
And it's like. It's so hyper-focused because it's on ESPN, and you got these parents freaking out, and I'm just like, oh, I feel bad for the kids.
Of course, you always do. Yeah. Even at the level when I'm watching one of Siggy's games and there's something going on, I'm like, come on. The adults need to be adults, but the kids, that's their whole world. And you can see during the Little League series that they're just in it, and I love watching it, too, for that reason. It's just so innocent and purely sports-driven. You can see, like, it's pretty much for the love of the game.
I like it when the kids are in the dugouts coming up with cheers for whoever's like batting or something like that.
Yeah, there's usually some rowdy dugout action going on. Yeah. They got their rhymes and stuff.
Especially if you're not like, for our area, if their kids not from the same school, so you don't really know each other, but they come up with these cheers and all that.
Yeah.
So that's the cool stuff.
What about you? Any sportsmanship moments from your youth that you can dig up out of the arsenal, like moments of pride or where you felt like, hey, this was one of those moments that got you in the feels, even if it wasn't reflected on the scoreboard necessarily?
Nothing stands out to me right now.
But people, especially if you're at a game like that, I don't think it ever leaves you. If you're just like, okay, that was a show of sportsmanship. I know during the Olympics, there was some help across the finish line for somebody that obviously knew that, they were going to sacrifice their own positioning to help somebody across and that kind of thing. And that's you don't hear about that very often.
No.
So it's always nice to highlight it, especially coming back up in sports season.
Absolutely.
So what sport do you think is the best for sportsmanship overall if you had to pick?
That's a tough one. I'd go baseball or football.
You got to pick one.
I might go baseball. And
now, why do you think that is? Because it's slower paced. It's an older pastime. There's more like provenance associated with it.
I think part of it too is maybe this might sound dumb, but they still they don't really do it for the team. I don't know. Like you go football, they still do the handshakes after the game between the two teams, whereas baseball it's just your own team.
Yeah.
So maybe it's still football in that essence too, but
Well, and sometimes when you see
That's
the
tough.
NFL games happen, though, you'll see quarterbacks come up and give each other hugs, after the
And
game
sometimes I
too,
feel like that's forced, and I like,
just for the
okay,
camera.
yeah, because
Yeah,
like, why is it always gotta be the quarterback and the quarter you know what I
yeah,
mean? But
little
yeah,
drama. That's
yeah,
because yeah, quarterbacks are drama
and the
bombs.
coaches and all that too,
Rogers,
so yeah,
Rogers, Rogers.
exactly. Hey, stay dry, okay? I heard the
Yeah,
sirens going off over
yeah,
there,
severe
so
weather right now.
all right, 1 hour in, we got a couple more to go. We'll be back after these news updates. Second hour kicking off on this Tuesday morning. Appreciate you making us a part of your starts. Careful out there if you're driving around in the rain. I know we got some thunderstorm warnings and such out there. So depending on where you are listening to us, or depending on where you're listening to us from, be careful out there. Okay, just don't text us while it's raining and while you're driving and that. All right, you can wait till you get to your destination and such. So. But we got more Packers talk coming up here. It is cut down day for the green and gold as they will set their initial 53-man roster by this afternoon. The initial 53-man roster will be set by this afternoon. We know we've talked the first hour about the new backup quarterback with Malik Willis. Your thoughts on that move, and then what's the next, or what's got you most intrigued about what other moves the Packers will make by today's deadline? Is it kicker? Is it which receivers they keep outside the top four? Is it the back end of the offensive line, the tackles and such? Is it the running back situations with A.J. Dillon and Marshawn Lloyd banged up? What do you got for me? All right, hit me up with some text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. We'll get to some of your texts coming up here in just a little bit. We've got Badger Chat coming up a little over an hour from now. RJ Cardinal will be joining us as we start to preview the Badgers. They got their first game this Friday. Badger fans, what are your realistic predictions, realistic expectations for this team this year? Do you have high expectations in year two of Luke Fickell? Do you look at the schedule and be like, meh? Kind of been our word of the day, phrase of the day, meh. What are you expecting? What do you want to see? Outside of a bunch of wins, of course. But what do you want to see from this Badger football team this year two of Luke Fickell, but a very tough schedule with an expanded conference now. We've got USC, we've got Oregon and such. And Badgers, they've got home games against Alabama, Oregon, Penn State. They do go to USC and such. So, I mean, at least the majority of their tougher games on paper are at Camp Randall. So, but what do you want to see from this Badger football team this year in year two with an expanded conference, with a tough schedule, but year two under Luke Fickell? All right. So let me know. I'm curious to get your thoughts for that too. But Brewers are back in action tonight. Off day yesterday for the Brew Crew. Tobias Myers is going to be on the mound. Tobias Myers looking for his 7th win of the season. He's coming off of a game against the St. Louis Cardinals back on the 21st, where he went 4 innings, giving up 6 hits, 2 earned runs, did have 5 strikeouts in that game. But again, we know Tobias has been talked about plenty of times, but Tobias Myers, one of the best pitchers since June 1st out there so far in the month of August. In 4 games that Tobias has started, Tobias is 0-1, but a 2.05 ERA. It's even slightly better than what his ERA was in July. July, in 4 games, he was 1-2 with a 2.70 ERA. So Tobias Myers, again, kind of continuing to play at an incredibly high level. On the other side, Logan Webb is going to get the start for the Giants, and Logan Webb has been an innings eater, especially lately here for the Giants. He's coming off of pitching 8 innings against the White Sox. No decision, 2 earned runs. Before that, on the 15th against Atlanta, he pitched 7 2/3. Before that, against Detroit on the 10th, he pitched 7 innings. August 5th against Washington, he pitched 5 2/3. July 31st, went a full 9 against Oakland. But Logan Webb has been pretty darn good so far in the month of August. In 4 games started, he is 3-0 with a 1.27 ERA. 1.27 ERA. The best that he has pitched throughout the entire season, but he's been pretty darn solid throughout. I mean, again, I think this is another example. You look at 11 and 8, oh, okay, a couple games above 500, 3.13 ERA. But when you break it down, I mean, the month of April, 2.97. Month of May, 2.40. June, 3.83. July struggled, 2-2 with a 4.78. But he has really bounced back this month of August with that 3-0 record, 1.27 ERA, and eaten up a lot of innings. In fact, I'm looking at his pitch count here, too. I mean, 93 in his last game against the White Sox, 104, 110, 95, and 106. So in his last 5 games, he has gone at least 90 pitches or more. And in 3 of those 5 games, he has hit at least 100, 104 or more, because it was 104, 106, and 110 over there. So guy's been gobbling up some innings there for the Giants. Should be a good pitching matchup. When you look at the batting lineups between these two ball clubs, really not a ton of experience. Really not a ton of experience between these two teams in terms of the batting lineup and these pitching staffs. Tobias makes sense. The Logan Webb one kind of surprised me a little bit, but not a ton. I mean, you're talking about Willie Adames has a couple games worth. Reese has a game's worth on there too, and that's pretty much it. So you don't really have a big sample size of hitters going up against, Logan Webb and such. So it'll be interesting to see what the approach is like at the plate for these hitters going up against the veteran Logan Webb. The rest of Major League Baseball, we've got some really good games on the docket here today. I mean, you're talking about some games, some series that could be playoff implications, or I know we got about a month left here, but we could see some adjustments, some changing, or some moving up and down in terms of the standings here. We have that Kansas City and Cleveland series that's got underway yesterday, and Kansas City winning both of those games. Kansas City 4-3 over against Cleveland, and then 9-4 against Cleveland. Houston falling to Philadelphia in extra innings and 10 innings, 3-2. Minnesota fell to Atlanta. And then when you're looking at the schedule for today, more teams in action to begin their series, including the Brewers going up against the Giants. We have that Dodgers and Baltimore series, which should just be absolutely fantastic to watch. The Mets taking on Arizona. Mets trying to get into that wild card chase. Arizona, easily one of the hottest teams in all of Major League Baseball right now. You're looking at, Kansas City and Cleveland still, going at it game 3 today and such. So Padres and the Cardinals are also up there. A lot of good games to kind of be paying attention to see where everything is going to shake out at the end of this week here. Right now, I mean, when you look at it, not a ton of movement over there. Baltimore is still your top team in the wild card chase in the American League. Kansas City, Minnesota holding on to a 5-game lead ahead of Boston. So, I mean, at least in the American League and the wild card chase, it's kind of separating itself a little bit here, but you still got some divisional races here between the Yankees and Baltimore. Baltimore is currently 2 back from the Yankees. Cleveland is holding on to a 1-game lead over Kansas City right now, and then Minnesota's 2.5 back in their division. Seattle 3.5 back now from Houston. So maybe kind of pay attention to that series or that division race there too. Philadelphia, we know they're leading their division kind of comfortably, 6 games ahead of Atlanta. Milwaukee, 10 games ahead of the Cubbies. But that NL West, Dodgers can't let up. They're only up 3 against Arizona and 4 against the Padres. Giants are trying to get into this wild card chase here a little bit. That's why this is a big series for them. So Brewers, don't overlook the Giants. Giants are 5.5 back from a wild card spot right now. So, I mean, they're looking at this final month and change here for some big time, where they got to win some of these big time games and some of these big time series to get back into that chase there. So, all right, really quick note here. Back to the Packers. Saw this from Rob Demovsky. According to Rob Demovsky, the quote expectation is that Marshawn Lloyd will go on the injured reserve as part of the Packers' reduction to 53 players on Tuesday. So, if that is in fact the expectation that Marshawn Lloyd will go on the injured list, I think that bodes incredibly well for Emmanuel Wilson to make the team. Maybe another running back over there too. So, but well, we'll keep you posted on any of the other potential moves that are out there for the Packers. So, expectations for the Badgers. Let's go over a couple of texts from you on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line here for the Badgers. Got quite a few 8-4s. Got quite a few 8-4s right now from all of you. I'm not going to go through every name, but because a lot of you just texted 8-4. We do have a 9-3 on there. We have a 7-5 listed on there. So it looks like the high is 9-3 and the base is about 7-5 right now. Mitch says Luke Fickle culture. I think a big part of his success was because he was able to build his own culture there. I'm assuming you mean there by Cincinnati. I'd like to see more of Luke Fickle Badgers in year two. So, Big Worm says, if Love goes down, do you believe Willis can take you to the playoffs? I say 100% no. No, I would say no too, Big Worm. I would say no. So, G-Man's got to grind my gears as when you watch MLB games, how come all the fans are sitting in the front row at the game and everyone is on their phone? That's what's grinding the gears for G-Man. Not watching the game, right, G-Man? Sitting on the phones. So, C-Bomb says, with all the moves that happen, how many players do you think end up on new teams, setting the line at 20? Hundreds will be released, but last year I think only 20 were signed to new teams, not counting the practice squads. I think you got to set the line at like a half, right? So if you're going to do a 20, probably like 19 and a half over there. Gosh, I have no idea. That's almost difficult to kind of forecast there. So, C-Bomb also says, what grinds my gears? People, if you're on the interstate and you're in the left lane, whoever you're passing, and move over. If there's a row of cars 20 deep behind you in the left lane, you are the problem. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday. It is an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So whatever is grinding your gears, you can let us know and hit us up with those texts to get them off your chest. A couple more texts here. This is from Ben about Malik Willis. I agree with your thoughts on the trade for Malik Willis. The thing that surprises me the most is that he is still a developmental quarterback. Why would Green Bay want to bring in a backup quarterback that is still, quote unquote, developing? Another text here. Intrigued with the Malik Willis trade. Not sure if he can go in there and win any games for the Packers, maybe in the next year or two. Surprised that they're going with somebody that is brand new to the system to be their main backup to Jordan Love. Another texter here just says, wrong Titans quarterback. I'm assuming you were talking about maybe Ryan Tannehill. You'd rather have Ryan Tannehill as your backup quarterback. Another texter says Malik Willis has a lot of talent, but it's still undeveloped. It's still incredibly raw. So I would have liked to have seen the Packers make a different move at the backup quarterback position. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll have some more coming up after these quick words. Hunting season is coming up, believe it or not. Next week, September already. We're going to be starting off some seasons and such. But if you're not quite ready yet for the upcoming hunting season, whether maybe it's deer season in November or some fall turkey or some waterfall season, you want to make sure you go visit our good friends at Tilden Gun. All right, Sean and Hunter over there will help you. We'll hook you up with what you need, with what you're looking for this upcoming hunting season. Have something specific in mind to help you find that. That's what they've done for me, and I know that's what they've done for countless other customers over there too. You can also check out their website, tildengun.com, to see their massive selection, easily the best prices in the Chippewa Valley, best customer service over there too. Tilden Gun, check them out, tildengun.com. A lot of you right now on the texting line, seems like you're kind of like blah, meh, down on the Malik Willis trade here for the Packers. As one texter, Dave, says on the texting line here, says it was a move that didn't move the needle either way. Sure, Willis maybe has a little bit more potential, but if he was supposed to be the guy for the Titans the last couple of years, why are they so anxious to move on from him as well? Another texter here. This is from Eric. Anybody who is so pumped up about a backup quarterback needs to check themselves. We got another texter here. This is from Nathan. Nathan saying, not sure what to make of the Malik Willis trade. Is it maybe a little bit better than Clifford or Pratt? Yep, sure. But if we're talking about a guy who's been in the league for the last couple of years and he's still a quote unquote developmental quarterback, there's something wrong with that statement. I can see what you're saying there. I definitely can see what you're saying there. On one side, it could be what was the coaching staff like in terms of developing him and such. Maybe a change of scenery. We've seen from quite a few people out there that it's been beneficial for them and such. It just remains to be seen. I think the thing is here too is, no offense to Malik Willis, but how many Packer fans want to see Malik Willis out on the field anyways playing games? I don't. I mean, because that means Jordan Love, something's wrong with Jordan Love. So I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him at all playing on the field. So I know we're probably making a lot about, I think a lot of people are making a lot about a backup quarterback position. When it's all said and done, if your backup quarterback is out there playing, it probably means something negative happened, which we don't want. We don't want at any point, right? So a couple more texts here going to the Luke Fickell and Badgers. Excited to see Luke Fickell and his Badgers team in year 2. I am expecting some growth. I think with that tough schedule, you're looking at 8-4 and 7-5, but definitely want to see some growth for this Badger football team. One more prediction: we've got another 8-4 season for the for the Badgers. So. All right, back to a little green and gold chat here. Joe is joining us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Captain. How's life?
Life's good. How about you?
It is good. What kind of coffee you're drinking? I see you got your Packer mug. What do you got going on?
Just some cheap K-cup.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, a kiss begins with K. That's what I think with my coffee in the morning.
That's not what I think. So that's not what I go for. So obviously a lot of talk though about Malik Willis. Packers have their new backup quarterback. Yep. I think a lot of people, myself included, are kind of like, meh, whatever. I'm not putting a lot of expectations on it. For one, it's a backup quarterback. I don't think it moves the needle that much, but what are your thoughts?
And you know what? I thought it was a good move. And I'm with you that this is a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't trade for a starting quarterback. So any hype needs to be measured, if you will. But I go back and I had to laugh last night because Packer Social was going off the hinges. What's Goody doing, etc. I said, I want to go Aaron Rodgers on some people. RELAX, man. Because I think sometimes you swing for the fences as a GM. And why not take a chance? When you go back to his draft profile, and I just want to go back and I think, again, this is why the draft and why grading the draft is an inexact science, because going back everyone that day said the Titans got a steal in the third round with this kid. He was projected to be a round one talent. Lance Zierlein with NFL.com said, this guy's going to be an above average starter within 2 years. And you go into the breakdown and you talk about dual threat ability, rare escapability, able to pace his release according to need, ability to recognize blitz and gets the ball. All these things. And again, this is why you don't put a grade on a draft. And the Titans got outstanding grades for getting him back in the day. So Packer fans, here's my thing, is sometimes as a GM, you take a shot. And I think this is a calculated risk. I think it's a low expense risk. It's a 7th round pick. And can he be better? Is his ceiling higher than Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt? And I think the answer is yes. And so why not? Now, my only concern in this is if Jordan Love does go down, I think Matt LaFleur has to change the offense. And so you look at Jordan Love's stature, he is a pocket quarterback for the most part. He's got some escapability, but he's always looking to get the ball downfield. Actually, that was one of the reasons Jordan Love had problems his last year in college, is when he would escape the pocket, he still wanted to throw, and he threw a lot of picks. But I look at this as, why not? And I get it. He was probably going to be cut anyway, but Green Bay wanted to get to the front of the line by trading that 7th round pick. So I'm all for it. Now, does it move the needle for me and say that this team went from a division championship to a potential Super Bowl contender? Absolutely not. Is this taking a risk on a guy that had a lot of upside at one point and most NFL scouts thought was going to be a pretty decent NFL quarterback? Why not? So I say, for the Packer fans poo-pooing it, I get it. I understand it. Relevant and relative to the position, a backup quarterback. But why not? I just think he's got more upside than Clifford or Pratt.
I think he's got more upside. My biggest question, though, is if he's been in the league for 2 years and he's still a developmental quarterback, can he go out there and win you games with I would say, a more competitive division this year, where a game or two could be a difference?
No doubt.
Looking at this conference, and I would agree. I think he's got more upside than what we've seen from Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt in that. I guess my question is, do you have the confidence that he can go win you games? And that, to me, I don't know if I have that confidence.
Well, yeah, and look.
And I know that, too, with a lot of backup quarterbacks, you're going to have that.
You're going to have that. And again, I'm not – and I don't want, everyone like tweeting at me and everything that's saying I'm comparing him to Brett Favre. But if Brett Favre stays with Jerry Glanville and he was there for a year, and if he stays with Glanville, he's out of the NFL within 3 years. If Brett Favre doesn't get traded and has Mike Holmgren, and if Ron Wolf doesn't see something in him, Brett Favre's out of the NFL. And so a lot of it is, what do you have from a coaching standpoint? What kind of system are you putting? If Philadelphia, when they drafted Jalen Hurts, would have expected Jalen Hurts to be a drop back quarterback and not run the ball, because Jalen Hurts reminds me a lot of Malik. There's some similarities, the compactness of the body build, those types of things. And so again, and Packer fans, I'm not comparing him to the kind of quarterback that Brett Favre was or the kind of quarterback that Jalen Hurts is, but I think you can say that I think most teams in the NFL, if you really look at it, 32 teams, after cutdowns today, if you ask yourself, can they win not just one game, can they win 2 or 3 games in the NFL if they're pressed in? I guarantee you more than half the NFL teams have some insecurities about that position.
And we saw how important backup, though, is even last year for a lot of those teams in that postseason. Joe Flacco became a lead again. Gardner Minshew had the Colts on the brink of it, going there. Mason Rudolph helped the Steelers get to the postseason. You mentioned changing the offense, and that's another thing where I would almost rather have a quarterback where you could come in and not change everything, where you can kind of go pick up where you left off. One example I'll go a couple years ago, let's say when the Ravens brought in Robert Griffin III, where they didn't have to change the offense a whole lot when Lamar Jackson there. Flacco to Lamar Jackson was completely different within that offense. That gives me a little bit of pause at that point too. But again, it's like if Jordan Love's missing time, I don't want to see Malik Willis on the field. I don't want to see him out there.
Look, and I'm totally with you on this.
Yeah. My question though too is, obviously Sean Clifford regressed. Otherwise, we're not talking about this.
No doubt.
So, I mean, I don't know if that really says anything about, because I know a lot of people are saying too, well, Malik Willis is going into a room where he can develop quarterbacks and such. And I get that to an extent, but what does that say about what happened with Sean Clifford from year 1 to year 2?
No doubt. That's a blemish on the quarterback room of the Green Bay Packers. All right. So, and reports is that Sean Clifford is definitely going to be waived. Michael Pratt, TBD. I think they both get waived. And I think realistically, they both will be available for the practice squad. So I think they both get waived today. And again, Packer fans, I just want to ask this. If they would have rolled with Sean Clifford, would you have been confident that he could win 2 or 3 games? Absolutely.
Some did last year.
Some wanted him starting last year.
Yeah.
And so, that crowd is quieted now. But, you look at what you had in Sean Clifford and in potentially Michael Pratt. And I liked Pratt coming out. Don't get me wrong. He was actually, both of those quarterbacks were in my mock drafts over the last 2 years. So I liked these guys coming out. But yeah, Sean Clifford regressed. You don't know what you have in Michael Pratt. I think one or both is going to end up back on the practice squad. And the new rule this year, and I think this is the other thing Packer fans need to realize, the emergency quarterback this year, the rule with that is this. You no longer can bring that third quarterback up from the practice squad to be your emergency QB. He needs to be on the roster. And so I think Green Bay saw enough of Clifford and Pratt to say, that's not our guy. And so let's take a flyer. And reports is that Tannehill wants a lot of money to come out this year. That's not going to be in Green Bay. Green Bay's not going to overspend for a backup quarterback. And so again, and when you look at the list that's available or potentially will be available after today, it's not that great. So again, I say, Packer fans, hopefully the backup quarterback never sees the field. I like every once in a while swinging for the fences and taking a shot with a guy that you could rebuild. And I think Malik Willis is better than Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt.
I was joking about it yesterday, but it's giving me insane flashbacks now to when Green Bay decided to get Seneca Wallace after all the cuts and that, and we know what happened that year. He gets hurt after replacing Aaron Rodgers after one series. Hopefully that doesn't happen. History doesn't repeat itself because we need Scott Tolzien and Matt Flynn to come back.
Well, look, again, I'm going to say this. If Jordan Love gets hurt for a significant amount of time, the wheels are off the train. It's just not happening, Packer fans. If Jordan Love's going to have to miss 4, 5, 6 games, those are going to be games that Green Bay is going to have a really tough time winning.
Not everybody's like Cleveland, where they've got Deshaun, Jameis Winston, and Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley as your top 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but then you look at Cleveland and what they overpaid to get Deshaun Watson, and you say, they kind of put themselves in that situation by overpaying for a quarterback with a lot of question marks. And so again, I thought it was. I'll just end it by this. I think Goody. I think you got to swing for the fences and take a chance. And I think Goody upgraded the current roster by going out and getting him.
So does he do the same as a kicker?
It's interesting. Somebody tweeted out yesterday, who would have thought it's harder to replace Mason Crosby than Aaron Rodgers? I don't know what they do at kicker. I don't think the kicker, truthfully, I don't know what else is out there. I know there's some teams right now that are going to be cutting a kicker at the deadline today. So you're going to have to see what's out there. I thought for sure when Carlson hit that, 54-yarder, I thought, okay, let's go with him. And then he shanks the 32-yarder. And you just can't have that. You just can't have that kind of inconsistency. So I would predict right now that the Packers kicker is not on the roster. And I know Rich Bisaccia, a big fan of the Carlson boys. All right. So I get that, but I am really nervous about that kick. You go back and saying Packers 1 or 2 games could affect them from a backup quarterback standpoint. I'll tell you right now, there is going to be a game that's going to be won or lost for the kicking game. So Anders Carlson concerns me a lot more than the backup quarterback situation. I don't think the kicker is on the Green Bay roster right now.
I wonder if it's going to be one of those initial where he is and then later sort of thing, after waivers or maybe even a trade, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I agree with you. I think there's going to be some wheeling and dealing at the
Would you say it's Anders or somebody else and Greg Joseph is just completely off?
Greg Joseph's gone. You know who Greg Joseph is. He's an 80% field goal kicker in 5 years in the NFL. That's not going to change. Anders Carlson was an 80% kicker his first year in the NFL. That could change. So Greg Joseph started off hot in camp, and I thought, okay, maybe with Bisaccia coaching, et cetera, he leveled off after a while. And again, I don't want an 80% kicker. The NFL average is 85%. And Greg Joseph over 5 seasons is an 80% kicker, and that 5%, absolutely huge.
What do you? I'm glad you kind of brought those numbers up, because there's been this debate amongst some Packers fans when you go and look at, well, Mason Crosby was, this percentage, and career wise, I think he was
I think 82
or something like that.
82%, yeah.
So, you got some fans saying, well, look at what Mason did, and compared to Anders, it's not that off. But that's changed, right? The average has changed. That's why I'm glad you mentioned, you look at the top half.
Right.
I want to be in the top half of that, and
right.
not compare it to another guy's career numbers.
Right. And here's the thing, and this is what I'm glad you brought this up, because Greg Joseph, you have more of a lab test, if you will. You know what this guy is. I don't mean to go Denny Green, but we know who he is.
Right.
And so with Anders Carlson, we still don't know who he is. And so I think in the ultimate world, I think what Green Bay does is they cut Anders Carlson, they bring in somebody else, and they bring Anders Carlson back to the practice squad, because they wouldn't have drafted him if they didn't see something. And again, you kind of like the Bisaccia story of, well, I know his brother, and I know the makeup of the family,
right?
And so you kind of like that angle. But for a team with Super Bowl aspirations, you cannot go into the year with that question mark. And again, look, say what you want, Green Bay missed a lot of opportunities in that San Francisco game, a lot of opportunities, but with 2 or 3 minutes to go, Anders Carlson hits that field goal to make it a 7-point game. It is a different ending. 100%, it is a different ending. And so, did it affect that game? Absolutely. Was it the only thing in that game? No. But can you trust Anders Carlson this year with Super Bowl aspirations? I think not.
Running back has kind of changed quite a bit now in terms of the depth. We know Jacobs is going to be ready to go and such. Rob Domofsky has said the expectation is Marshawn Lloyd will be on the injured reserve to start season. A.J. Dillon's a big unknown.
With the designation
to return.
Yep.
A.J. Dillon's kind of an unknown at this point with that stinger issue that's going on here. So, I mean, I would think Emmanuel Wilson's got to be a lock to make this roster, right?
I think he is. And I think what Green Bay got to see with Emmanuel Wilson, he was 4 yards off being the preseason leading rusher for the second year in a row. And I think what Green Bay was able to see in Emmanuel Wilson is, going back to our quarterback conversation where you might have to change the offense, Emmanuel Wilson and Josh Jacobs, if you look at their build, their 40 time, everything about those two backs is they're very similar. Okay, I think the difference is one played at a major college football program, the other was a D2 kid. And so, but I think Green Bay has been able to see how Josh Jacobs can work in this offense because of the work Emmanuel Wilson has done in this offense. And so I think it's one of those where you say, okay, I really like this kid. And I will tell you, you look at a running back, and really, I look at vision, all right? And I look at seeing things. I thought Aaron Jones, that was one of the most exquisite things of his game was his vision back there. And I think Emmanuel Wilson is building that. I think coming from a D2 program, the skills were there, but he never had to use the vision. He was just better than most of the players there. I think you're seeing the vision, and I think you're seeing the potential there. So, yeah, I think, look, the big question mark is going to be A.J. Dillon. I think they might start the year, potentially, depending on the stinger situation, with 2 running backs. They might go into the year with Josh Jacobs and Wilson, and that's it, depending on how everything else shakes out. Do you want a Pearson? Do you want that pure fullback? Because I think Green Bay didn't see that they had that H-back in their tight end room. And so a lot of decisions to be made that way. I still like A.J. Dillon because in week 15 on a blitz pickup, I like A.J. Dillon back there because I think he has picked up the nuances of blitz pickup. And again, protecting the investment, protecting Jordan Love is number one. So I still think A.J. Dillon has a role on this team, but it all depends on how other position groups break down and where you feel, do you need that extra offensive lineman? Do you need that extra cornerback, if you will? And so it's going to be a trickle down whether or not A.J. Dillon makes this team. And the stinger and more doctors, more work, more question marks, it leads you to believe maybe it's not just a stinger. Maybe there's some other things going on there.
Yeah, we talked about that with Dr. Crow on Friday, and not to cause or put out false impression or anything, but you start to wonder about that Sterling Sharp injury with the neck, or the Nick Collins, sort of stuff out there too. The narrowing of those columns.
By the way, side note, that's one of my favorite features on the show.
Dr. Crow's good.
Yeah, that's good stuff. It gives you a sneak peek.
He's on the rival sidelines though. He's coaching with Regis, so he's a pass rush specialist.
I get it, but it's good stuff on the show.
Yeah.
But there's big question marks about AJ Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not only the question marks of what kind of back is he truly, but also the health. But if he's healthy, I think he becomes invaluable, especially late in the season, with things of the nuances, again, of blitz pickup and those types of things. So right now, it wouldn't surprise me at all, though. Marshawn Lloyd goes on the IR with a designation of returning. A.J. Dillon does not make the final cut, and they just run with 2 for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's going to pick A.J. Dillon up.
Mm-hmm.
So he might be one of those guys that you could pick up post 53 cut down if needed be.
Gotcha. Really quick, a couple more position groups here. Obviously, wide receiver Grant DeBose had a quiet last couple games. In fact, was graded really bad by Pro Football Focus in his final one. And lo and behold, Bo Melton and Malik Heath both scored touchdowns in the final game there. So it's still 4 locked with Dontavian, Jaden, Christian, Romeo. I still say they keep 6. I don't know if you agree with that.
I agree with you.
Is it still Grant on this team, and then Bo Melton compared what he did last year? Does that factor in?
Your last 2 are going to be Heath and Bo Melton.
Yep.
Grant DeBose goes back to the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
He flashed. One of the splash plays for me was actually in the practices against the Ravens, and Malik Heath was playing the slot, and he ran just a kind of a skinny post corner and got deep behind the cornerback of the Ravens, who I can't remember who it was, but I know he's a fast kid. Malik Heath has more surprising speed than I think people give him credit for. Mm-hmm. He's this blocking guy. Again, if you don't block, you don't get the rock, according to Matt LaFleur. So I think he stays. Bo Melton, you can't teach size, and you can't teach, for the most part, 4.3 speed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Bo Melton, based on what he did last year, I think he is your number 5, and I think Malik Heath is your number 6, and I think they keep 6, and I think they keep the 3 tight ends. Mm-hmm. So I think they go – I think you're looking at 2 running backs with Lloyd designated to return after 4 games, 6 wide receivers, and those 3 tight ends.
So do you have 6 corners or 5 corners? Because that's one of my things too, is I have 5. I can see 6 with Corey. I think how much does the safeties, if you want all those guys on the field at the same time?
Right. Valentine's the tough one for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is an NFL vet. This is a guy who's played in this league, and the special teams value that he brings to the table, I think, is so critical. I am leaning towards 6 at this point, and of course, where do you cut elsewhere? But look, you're not cutting Kalen King.
Mm-hmm.
He's shown way too much. You've got Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
You're not cutting Keyshawn Nixon. So I think you keep 6, because here's the thing too, Captain, is I think if you cut a Corey Valentine, I think he gets picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at going back to our quarterback situation and A.J. Dillon talking about who might get picked up, I think they look and say Corey Valentine's body of work from a special team standpoint and a defensive standpoint is pretty impressive. So I think you keep 6 at that position, sacrificing somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Did Aaron Mosby get a job? Even though he's
on the practice squad. On the
yeah.
practice squad. Look, and that kid flashed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when given the opportunity, and if they're going to say, well, he's playing against the 2s and 3s. Well, yeah, but he's a 2 or 3. And so you got to flash when you have the opportunity, and he did that. And so I there's no question that, did he start popping out and seeing more and liking what you're seeing? Absolutely. Practice squad guy. And I think Walter Stanley's kid is a practice squad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Dimitri Stanley, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's a practice squad guy. So
a legacy.
Well, you know what? I always liked, I don't care where they're drafted, if they're undrafted, where they went to school. I like guys who have some kind of heritage or lineage to guys who played in the NFL, because I think it tells them what they need to know to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, he's a guy I think makes the practice squad. But, It's going to be interesting from a backup situation. What tackles do they keep? I think that's going to be interesting. But I think Green Bay, for the most part, knows about their top 40 players.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at that bottom third, bottom quarter of the roster. And so I think, they're pretty set where they need to be. And I think the big question mark, obviously, is what they do at kicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so let me ask you this now.
Okay.
Seeing this team, and I want to wrap up with this, seeing this team in the preseason, seeing what this football team personnel-wise will likely look like. I mean, they're not going to go out and make a major trade right now. I still chuckle at all the CeeDee Lamb trades that were out there.
Oh, my
for
God.
I was so tired of
that. Why are we doing this?
Why are we going there? I'm totally
Or Brandon Ayuk and all that.
I'm totally with you. So, seeing where they are, season starting in a week and a half, what's your record?
Oh, boy. I'm going to go. I think both the North divisions this year are going to be the best divisions.
I agree.
AFC and NFC North.
I agree.
Chicago, I think, is going to be pesky. They're going to be better just by default. They're going to be better.
No doubt. They have to.
Yeah. I just saw TJ Hawkins is going to miss the first 4 games for the Vikings. So Packers play Vikings week 4. The whole Sam Darnold thing, but they still got JJ. So I mean, that's. I'm going to go 11-6, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I got 12-5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sticking with my original 12-5.
Mm-hmm.
And am I drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit? Maybe, but I don't think I don't see much. Let's put it this way: I don't see any more than 6 losses on the schedule.
Right.
Okay, so I'm with you on that, but I will go one more, and I think like last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think this team picks up at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think they're going to start as slow as they did last year, but I'm sticking with my 12-5 based on what I've seen.
It's not really Green Bay related. I think San Francisco takes a step down this year.
I do too.
I actually think the Rams might win that division.
It wouldn't surprise me.
San Francisco still makes the playoffs, but with all the drama going around and
it's
all that stuff going on, I mean, Trent Williams isn't even going to be playing right away. Who knows with Brandon Ayuk?
I think Ayuk still gets traded.
Yeah.
I think he still gets traded. I think he ends up in Pittsburgh
mm-hmm.
For a lot less than I think they wanted to get from the other teams that we're talking to. So, yeah, I go through this schedule, and I wanted to ask you this today because obviously, now we know this team. We know this football team. We know the personnel on it. We've seen some of the schemes, obviously vanilla in the preseason, but I'm sticking with my 12-5. And from there, who knows what happens, but this team is a playoff team. Not sure division, if they win the division or if they get in as a wild card because Detroit. But I think 12-5, and I've been pretty I've been buying that for a while, and nothing has shown me to waver from that, so I'm going to stick with my 12-5.
That big stretch I look at, that November short week, you play San Francisco, then you got Miami, then you're at Detroit. That's going to be an interesting 3-game stretch.
That'll probably dictate where they end up from a playoff standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you. I think that's going to dictate where they're going to be. Looking at the division, Chicago, I like what you said, pesky.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great way to describe them. I'm not buying Sam Darnold. Sorry,
right.
Viking fans, just not doing it. And Detroit's Detroit. I like their football team. I like what they've done there. So it's going to be tough. But again, I still see this football team being a 12-5 team, probably going in as the 2nd or 3rd seed, maybe the 4th. Looking at it, if they are that top wild card. So, again, they're going to have to probably go on the road in the playoffs at some point. But I'm sticking with it. I'm pretty bullish on that 12-5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of where I was like 11-6, 12-5, somewhere around there. So I'll go 11.5.
Yeah. And I believe
11-5-1.
I believe Vegas has them at 9.5 for the over.
I'd take the over.
I would take the over.
Yeah.
100% on that.
Absolutely.
100%. I don't see, and I'm with you, I don't see them losing any more than 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. It's just there's a couple of these teams on this schedule too that I'm just like, I don't know what, like Houston, they're good, but I mean, there's a little pause to me with that too. It's like, okay, 1 year, everybody's like,
why is CJ Stroud been anointed,
right,
and Jordan Love has not?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask that question. When you look at the age of the two of them, they're about the same age.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. One had more experience than the other in the NFL, but Yeah, I'm going to go back to Denny Green. I'm not ready to crown them yet, as
Right.
far as the Texans go. And you, my friend, are going to that game.
Yep.
With your little guy.
Yep.
And you've got flag football starting too.
Yellow Jackets are in action tonight if the weather holds off. So.
That is that. There you go, man. It starts, and I saw your clips of you and Hutz playing catch up at Lambeau. Enjoy these moments. Yeah. Enjoy these moments. Having a son in football is just, and I had the fortunate experience of coaching 2 of them. It's pretty cool. So enjoy these moments and memories, because it's pretty cool when you look back on.
Got to scout the games ahead of ours though too. So I'll try my best. Little Giants, not to be in the bushes. With the
yeah. So your games are always on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So we did not play the JV game last night of Eau Claire Memorial versus Hudson. So we are playing today at Carson. So I will not be able to attend.
What time at Carson are you playing?
3 o'clock.
Okay.
3 o'clock JV is playing at Carson today. Eau Claire Memorial at Hudson.
Well, that's where we're playing, is at Carson too. So.
And what time's your game?
7:15.
Maybe I'll go out.
We're actually going to be on the softball field right next to Carson.
Maybe I'll go out and grab dinner after our win, and then come over and watch your win tonight.
All right.
And
sounds good. We're taking on the Eagles, just like Green Bay.
See,
yeah.
And again, you will have to let it now. What kind of offense are you running? Or do you not want to give that away?
I don't want to give it away, because I know we got some coaches that listen, so I don't want to give away the playbook. But
all right, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it off.
I added a couple more last night too. So
how big is your install?
I mean, we got 8 plays right now, so I'm trying to dumb it down. I do have a kid though that showed up. I appreciate this armband with
the arm coach.
Yep,
he had the arm coach.
Yep, little Ben, that a boy.
And is Ben going to use it?
I think so. We'll get that on there. Yeah, once we get a little bit more familiar with the names and that, so we can do this quick. Ben 8. Then he looks at it and he knows what to do. So
nice.
Yes.
Nice.
He was ready to go. I like it.
Are you? I just have to ask. Are you from the Bill Walsh?
The Bill Walsh, Paul Brown, Andy Reid kind of like trio mixed in there. We got some exotic looks with some basic concepts in there. So
I love it, Coach Kasper. I love it, man.
As long as if I can do offense, or I can come up with the plays, then I'm good. I'm good.
This could be a fun season. Best of luck to you, man.
Appreciate it, man. So we got to take a really quick break before we get cut off at the top of the hour. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, really quick. That went a little long, but that's okay. We got one more hour coming up. We'll do some Grind My Gears. Don't forget, it is a Grind My Gears Tuesday. Let us know. Hit us up with what's grinding your gears with a quick text. Then Badger Chat with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up in about 20 minutes. We got some news updates. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, final hour on this Tuesday morning coming at you. Appreciate you making us a part of your start on this August 27th. Coming up in about, let's say 10, 15 minutes or so, we'll catch up with Mr. R.J. Cardinal, our Badger analyst. The Badgers getting set to kick off their season this Friday. We'll preview that game, and we're looking for what are your season predictions, your season expectations for this Badger team? What's kind of like your bare minimum expectation, or what do you at least want to see with this team outside of a bunch of wins, right? So I know a lot of you kind of chimed in with some records over there saying bare minimum 8-4, 7-5, and such. But under year 2 with Luke Fickell, the expansion of the Big Ten, you got a tough schedule coming up here. What are some of your realistic expectations out there for this Badger football team? All right, let me know. What's on your mind here? Obviously, we're keeping tabs if there's any moves out there surrounding the pack with them trying to trim down their roster. They have to trim down their roster to 53 by this afternoon. Their initial 53-man roster. The move yesterday, Malik Willis, the Packers acquiring him, by all accounts, will be the new backup quarterback to one Jordan Love. If you haven't chimed in with your thoughts on that move, you can do so by hitting us up with a text, 715-830-1912. Mitch saying but Mason Crosby was better earlier on in his career, tailed off later years. I mean, if you look at field goal percentage, though, Mason didn't crack 80% until his 5th year. He was 85.7% in 2011, 79.5% his first year, 79.4, 75, and then 78.6. And that's kind of the argument where on one side of the fan base that is telling fans to be patient with Anders, they use those numbers to make the case for Anders, because Anders in his first year was 81.8% from field goal percentage. So, I mean, if you're using just field goal percentage numbers to say who's better, then yeah, technically Anders was better with his first year numbers. So, I mean, Mason, and then after that 85.7, that was his rough year, 63.6. And then that's actually was like the middle of his career where we saw some consistency from him. 2013 until about 2016, he was mid to high 80s. 2019, 91%. 2020, he was actually 100%. His final year in Green Bay, 86.2%, one of his highest years of his career. So, yeah. Giants, I mean, he only played 3 games and attempted a couple of kicks over there. So, that to me, though, is the biggest thing that I'm going to be watching today in terms of cuts, or actually maybe in the next couple of days here. What do the Packers do with their kicking position? Do they roll with one of the guys that they have? Do they try to make another move? Do they trade for another kicker? Do they wait to see what's on the waiver wire? Do they initially carry, a guy like Anders Carlson, then they see who's waived and try to put a waiver claim in on one of those kickers out there? That's going to be maybe something we'll have a better idea of in the next couple days here. But that's definitely the position group that I'm going to be really paying attention to see what they do over there. And I think that's probably where a lot of Packers fans are going to be eyeing up to see where they roll with the kicking spot. Other ones, I'm curious to see what they do with their depth at running back. Rob Demovsky saying it's likely that Marshawn Lloyd will be placed on injured reserve with designation to return. I think the question after that now is A.J. Dillon. Is he going to be able to go? After that, Manuel Wilson, I would assume, makes the team. Any other running backs? How about the final 2 spots for the wide receivers, and maybe the last couple spots, last spot or two, when it comes to the offensive line over there too. So, but Brewers are also back in action tonight. They'll be taking on the San Francisco Giants. This is I think a really fun pitching matchup. You got Tobias Myers, who has been one of the best starting pitchers in all of Major League Baseball since the month of June. Logan Webb is on the mound, and he has been having a fantastic month of August here. We went through the numbers a little bit earlier, but in the month of August for Logan Webb, when you break it down month by month, in his 4 games, he's 3-0 with a 1.27 ERA, and he has been eating up some innings for the Giants, coming off of 8 innings against the White Sox on the 21st, 7 2/3 the game before that, 7 innings before that, 5 2/3 against Washington back on August 5th, and then July 31st pitching full 9 against Oakland. So dude has been racking up some of the innings and some of the pitch counts in his last 5 games. He has gone at least 90 pitches or more. 3 of those 5, he has pitched over 100 pitches in those games too. So first pitch for tonight's game is going to be at 7:10. Coverage will begin about 35 minutes prior. But we're at a portion of the schedule now when you look at a lot of these matchups in Major League Baseball. We got some good matchups. We got some good games that could tighten up some of these races for divisions or for seedings or for wild cards, maybe increase some of those gaps. But we got some good games coming up here as we close out the month of August this week and head into the final month of the regular season, starting this Sunday. Starting this Sunday already, September 1st. So 32 games left for the Brewers. Yeah, 32 games. How many off days they got in there? 1, 2. So was it 3 off days mixed in there? Oh, they got, yeah, they had an off day yesterday. Yesterday was Monday. So San Francisco for 3 games in Milwaukee. Quick road trip to Cincinnati. Back home against the Cardinals for 3. And then Colorado after that at home before that road trip that I'm kind of eyeing up here. San Francisco is still trying to get in this wild card chase. They're 5.5 back from a wild card spot. But you look at September 10th through the 22nd, 3 games on the road against San Francisco, 3 games on the road against Arizona, who is in fuego right now, 3 games at home against Philly, 4 games at home against Arizona from September 10th through the 22nd. That is going to be a very interesting and a very tough stretch for the Brewers as they get set for, I think we're all assuming, a playoff run or getting to the playoffs because they only got 2 more series after that, Pittsburgh on the road and then the Mets at home. And we'll see what maybe what the Brewers have to play for when it comes to that point in time. Mets may still be trying to compete for a wild card spot there. Maybe the Brewers have stuff locked up. Who knows? So, what else do we got here? Let's catch up on some texts, some more texts here. In terms of, this is from Matthew, Matthew, but Matt says, in terms of the Badgers and expectations, I'm expecting an 8-4 season. I just want to see Luke Fickell continue to build his program and start to see some positive movement in that direction. Okay. We've got another text here from, this is from Jeff. Jeff is saying about the Badgers this year. I'm going into the season with a big unknown, no expectations. Kind of feel like it was the same way for the Packers and the Brewers, going into the season with no expectations and just seeing how it all goes this year. Interesting perspective. Do we go into this Badger season with not knowing what to expect, kind of like what we did with the Packers last year, kind of like what we did with the Brewers this year? Maybe you're lowering that bar, just inadvertently kind of lowering that bar, and then we look at what the Packers did, and now we're looking at what the Brewers are doing. It's like they're exceeding our expectations, so maybe that's part of it. But when it comes to this Badger football season, I'm intrigued. I'm excited. Yes, it's a tough schedule, but again, you want to compete for college football playoff spots, and you want to compete for national championships and that. Gotta have some of these tough schedules here. So I'm excited to see how this team looks. I'm excited to see what they can do when we look at their schedule. I think, just in my opinion, if you get to that game against Penn State on October 26th and you've got like 1 loss, maybe it's against Alabama or USC, and you've got 1 loss heading into that game, I think you're setting yourself up to be in a really good spot. Now, it's a tough 3 games after that. Penn State and Iowa and then Oregon. But Penn State comes to Camp Randall. Oregon's got to make that trip to Camp Randall. If you can at least put yourself in a position to make some noise and maybe get to that game with just 1 loss on your record, I think things are really going to be fun to watch in the final 5 games of that regular season. It's a tough ask. I understand that, but that'd be really fun to get to that point. So we'll talk more about RJ. What are some of his realistic expectations and what does he want to see from this Badgers team? And then, of course, taking a look at the first game. Badgers kicking off their season against Western Michigan this Friday night. We know college football week 0 started off this past weekend. Already had an upset, Florida State losing to Georgia Tech and such. So, but we'll talk all things college football with Mr. RJ Cardinal. A couple more texts here regarding the Packers and getting Malik Willis. This one is from Greg. Greg saying, I'm indifferent on the Malik Willis trade. Sure, I think he's a little bit better than Sean Clifford, but that's setting the bar pretty low to begin with. I would have liked a more established veteran because the expectations are so high for this Packers team this year. Another texter here saying that I think Malik Willis is going into a solid situation with the Packers. I hope we don't have to see him on the field, but I think if he were to go out there this year, I wouldn't be confident in his play to win some games, but maybe next year I'd be a lot more confident. Okay. We got another text. This is from Mike about the Packers. Definitely intrigued to see what they do with their kicking position today. In my opinion, I hope they bring another kicker. No idea who it would be. I'm just not sold on any of these guys. Another texter here saying, I'm actually going to be one that has Anders back. Love his distance. The one thing he has to clean up, though, is those chip shots and short distances. I think we give him another year to see what the kid has. All right. How about this? Let's make it a little prediction time here. Give me your prediction, all right? There's no right or wrong answer in this. I'm just looking for your prediction. When we get to week 1 next week, is Anders the kicker? Is Greg the kicker? Or is it somebody that's not on this roster? I'm not going to make it a Twitter poll or a Facebook one because I just want it for the next 20 minutes or so. So hit me up with a text or comment on the video stream. Get your crystal ball out. Get your magic 8 ball out. Whatever. Or maybe you got one of those euchre balls. You shake it and you ask a question, see what it says. Who's the kicker for this team week 1? Does Anders survive cut down days? Do they give him another shot? Is it somebody that's not on this roster? Is it Greg Joseph? And make your picks based off of what you feel like Green Bay is going to do, not what you would do. Because I think those are 2 different things. Maybe for some it'd be the same, but for a lot it'd probably be different. What do you think Green Bay will do? All right, I want to hear some predictions. Text it. Comment on the video stream. Hit me up on Twitter at DANKSPER, Facebook or Instagram over there too. Let's take a quick break and let's get into some college football talk. RJ Cardinal will be joining us here. We'll preview the upcoming game against Western Michigan. We'll talk about the Badger season at hand here, some expectations, some goals. What do we want to see? All that good stuff. So college football is upon us. Badger college football is upon us. Let's get at it. Quick break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
The Dan Kasper Show will be right back.
Hi, I'm Melissa Peterson, Market President at Franz & Bank in Eau Claire. If you're planning to buy your first home, your dream home or cabin, let our mortgage experts guide you through the entire process. They'll work with you to find a solution that's tailored to your situation. We'll take the stress out of buying a home. Learn more at franzandbake.com/Eau Claire or stop by our convenient location today. Franz and Bank and Trust, member FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1207375.
The fall sports season is upon us. Unfortunately, that also means some of our young athletes may suffer an injury. But take comfort in knowing that you have the best teammate in the area to help your athlete get back on the field of play. That's Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Rely on their experience for any sports-related injury or issue. Their team of doctors and athletic trainers will help you get back on the field of play. If you or someone you know has suffered a sports injury, make your appointment with Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine today.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now, when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Joey, let's get some drive-through.
Yeah, bro. Ooh.
I'm going to have to ask you to step out of the car, sir.
Joey, let's get some drive-through, man.
Let's order delivery instead.
If you feel different, you drive different, and driving high is a DUI. If you think no one can tell you're high, think again. Your friends, family, and especially law enforcement can see right through it. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high and get a DUI. Brought to you by NHTSA.
The success you've had in life matters. The late nights, the extra shifts, the moments you've stood up and said, I've got this. At University of Maryland Global Campus, we value your achievements because we're a school for real life. With UMGC, you can earn up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's for prior learning and life and work experience, or transfer up to 12 credits toward a master's. We offer scholarships, affordable tuition, and online and hybrid classes, all with the support you need from your first day to graduation day and beyond. As an accredited state university, we've been transforming lives for over 75 years. Choose from more than 135 undergraduate and graduate degrees and certificates and get ready to succeed again. Now is the perfect time to take the next step in your life and education. Apply by August 29th and get your application fee waived. Combined with affordable tuition, scholarships, and financial resources, your degree is more attainable than ever before. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
What's on Tap, brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light beer. Rooting for the Brew Crew, because we're from Milwaukee too. Tastes like Miller time. Seniors, WPS Health Insurance wants to see you at American Family Field on select weekday home games. Seniors 60 plus can save 50% on tickets and are invited to stroll along the outfield warning track following the game. Visit brewers.com/WPS to learn more. Milwaukee Brewers Baseball and Miller Lite.
Service Master of Chippewa Valley is your local expert when it comes to fire and water damage, carpet and air duct cleaning, mold remediation, and trauma. They're when you need them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Trust comes in the yellow truck. Learn more at ServiceMasterChippewaValley.com. This August 31st, lace up for a cause at the 43rd Annual Buckshot Run in Eau Claire, benefiting Special Olympics Wisconsin. Come to Carson Park for a day of fun and fundraising. Whether you walk, run, or cheer, your support makes a difference. Register now at SpecialOlympicsWisconsin.org. Together, you can empower athletes and build inclusive communities. Don't miss out. Visit SpecialOlympicsWisconsin.org today. Brought to you by Special Olympics Wisconsin and this radio station.
There aren't many people as sports smart as he is, so he tries to use tiny words so people like me can easily follow along.
That doesn't make sense.
The Dan Kasper Show.
Week 0 of the college football season kicked off this past week. Already had an upset. Georgia Tech, based off preseason polls, because Florida State got the 10th ranking, but Georgia Tech defeating Florida State's across the pond over there in Ireland. Rest of the action begins this week. Got some games Thursday. Badgers kicking it off on Friday against Western Michigan. So we actually get to talk about some games now. Let's bring in Mr. RJ Cardinal here this morning. Happy start to the college football season, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah.
I watch games
last Saturday. Got to watch College Game Day. Got to sit around and do absolutely nothing. Well, just football's on, like meaningful football. Even though you can do that with preseason NFL, but it's just not the same.
Right, exactly. So, hey, before we kind of preview the game coming up here with Western Michigan and such, year 2 of Luke Fickell. We've been asking all morning, kind of, what are some of your expectations? What do you want to see, entering this year 2? What are some of your realistic goals? And with the tough schedule, with the expansion of the Big Ten and such, and we had a few people say, just Luke Fickell kind of continuing to build what the program that he wants to build, that culture and such. But let me ask you, what do you want to see from this team? Obviously, outside a bunch of wins, because we all want to see that. But what is it that you want to see in year 2 with this Luke Fickell era, with this current Badger football team?
I'd like to see a more coherent offense. Something that doesn't at times look like it's lost. So hopefully with enough skill position returners, especially at the receiver position, hopefully there's enough chemistry there with Tyler Van Dyke that we can see the offensive passing game not wait to come to life at the bowl game this year. And we can see that right from the get-go of passing plays that really extend the field and allow this offense to really open up. Defensively, they had some games last year where, whether it was because they were overlooking people or what, but there were times the defense looked absolutely stellar. And then there were times where the defense would just disappear. And, it's not like you lost games by, I think it was one game by more than 2. Well, no, Ohio State was 2 touchdowns. So I'm trying to think of a loss that was by more than 14 points, So defensively, you were doing well enough. It was like an average of 20 points a game or something like that. But defensively, you were doing well enough. You weren't stopping the run. So little improvement there. Most of what I need to see is on the offensive side of the ball, because I think the defense was spending way too much time on the field last year.
So with year 2, I mean, last year there was a ton of excitement from Badger fans, and maybe that's what kind of clouded the expectations or whatever, because I remember last year we had quite a few listeners saying 1 loss, Big Ten champs, and maybe drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid, or just maybe should have lowered the expectations here a little bit. Now you got a tougher schedule coming in here. Where do you kind of see that line? I guess a lot of our listeners are picking 7-5 and 8-4 as being I don't know if successful would be, but maybe that base of what they want to see from this team this year.
Well, first of all, you got to take care of your rivals. And a loss of 15-6 to Iowa is inexcusable. Losing to Indiana is inexcusable. You beat Minnesota, so there's that. You beat Nebraska. And I mean, losing to Northwestern is another one and that was a home game. You have to be able to take care of the teams you can take care of. We haven't lost to Purdue since 2003. People are high on Rutgers. I don't know why. You need to beat Northwestern. You need to beat Iowa. You need to beat Nebraska, and you need to beat Minnesota. Like, take care of those teams. And that's not even talking about our game on Friday against Western Michigan. You need to come out, and unlike Buffalo last year, where it looked a little uninspiring. I mean, you ended up winning by 21, but still, it felt like something was off. Mm-hmm. And then we found out the following week at Washington State, something is off. And even week 2, South Dakota is a ranked FCS team, I believe. So, I mean, that's not even something to overlook. Well, you're getting ready for the Alabama game on the 14th. But yeah, you need to be able to take care of the teams you're quote unquote considered better than. I mean, if you do that, that gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins definitely in the conference. I'll refrain to say from Iowa because they're ranked ahead of us, even though I don't know how they're ranked. And then you look at Western Michigan and South Dakota. You need to have both of those be wins. There's 7 wins right there for you. And I mean, who knows where Nebraska is going to be in November? It's at this time that defense still isn't nowhere near where it needs to be. And can Dylan Raiola really help out a team that lost a lot of people who weren't really the greatest? They're still recovering from being Nebraska of the 90s. So until that gets proven, it's still a question on where is Nebraska, you know? But yeah, and then just steal one in those big 4 games you have. Alabama, USC, Penn State, and Oregon. Get one of those. Your best bet might be traveling to USC. I don't know what they have on the defense side of the ball. I haven't really looked at it yet. But, I mean, you lose the number 1 overall pick at quarterback. Chances are they're going to reload on offense. We've seen them be very high offensive output there, but their defense can't stop a cold. So it's one of those. I can talk myself into a 7-win season, possibly 8 if you steal one of those 4 games.
I look at if they can somehow, and I shouldn't say somehow because I think it's definitely possible, but if you can get to, 1 loss before that Penn State game and that stretch Penn State, Iowa, then Oregon, you're setting yourself up for would you say almost kind of controlling your own destiny at that point?
Well, you're definitely putting yourself in play for being able to compete for a Big Ten championship game in the final 2 months of the season, and it's going to be hard. I mean, I don't know if you're talking 1 conference loss or 1 loss in general, because that means you're beating Alabama or you're beating USC and then taking care of the teams you should, like we talked about. But it's definitely one you can set yourself up for major success if you're going into that run of Penn State, Iowa, Oregon with 1 loss. And I mean, that would be amazing. More people, I think, are looking at it as 2 or 3 losses, because I think I've seen people already picking Rutgers to beat Wisconsin on the probability scales and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a season where I can see 7 to 8 wins and be okay with it, solely because, I mean, there's definitely 5 games you're not going to be favored in, and that's Alabama, USC, Penn State, Iowa, and Oregon. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes from there, but definitely 7-8 win campaign I'm seeing right now, but yeah, time will tell.
Right. So looking ahead, let's talk about the first game. Kickoff Friday, Western Michigan. The Broncos coming over to Camp Randall here. RJ, what is something that maybe Western Michigan does that could potentially give the Badgers maybe a little bit of fits in this first game?
Well, we talked about it that a little earlier about how the defense needs to get better in stopping the run game. They do have a returning 1,000-yard rusher. Jalen Buckley is a redshirt sophomore. Ran for 10 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, 1,003 yards. They have a couple of guys behind him that have snaps, transferred from Oklahoma State. And who is that? I've been trying to read this name, like Zaire Abdus Salam. Played in 12 games last year. Buckley sat out I think due to an injury, sat out a game against Mississippi State. Other than that, he'd be probably a little over 1,000, but he's at 1,003. Zaire is another guy for almost 500 yards rushing, but and their O-line is expected to be one of the tops in the MAC this year. So their run game is pretty good. Their returning one quarterback who took snaps. He only played in 8 games last year. And then their receiving core, it's there. It's just not the greatest. Their returners in the receiving core and at tight ends have 0 touchdowns caught. Oh, nope, I lied. 6 combined between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with their receiving core. I think when you look at Wisconsin's defensive secondary, that's probably the strong point right now of the, once you get away from the defensive line, I think the rest of the team in terms of coverage does pretty well. So it'll be interesting to see how Wisconsin attacks the rushing attack of Western Michigan there. It's an offense that last year averaged like 24 points a game, so more than Wisconsin was scoring on the offensive side of the ball. But against the Power 5 conferences, they lost 48-7 to Syracuse, 41-10 to Iowa. So, and Iowa averaged 15 points a game last year. So that if Iowa can put up points the way they were looking last year, I think Wisconsin should be okay in terms of being able to attack them offensively. But and then another 41 points put up on them by Mississippi State in October of last year. Flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, they have, out of their top 15 tacklers, 11 are returning. But a good majority of those guys are cornerbacks, safeties, and linebackers. So it tells me receivers are definitely, or even people are getting to the second level against this defense. So it'll be interesting to see how and really the youngest guy who receives snaps in games, and I'm calling that by he played in 12 games. Outside of that, I couldn't really find if it was defensively or on special teams, but a redshirt sophomore. Other than that, everybody else at the youngest is just a straight junior. So they have a very upperclassman laden defense, and it'll be interesting to see how a defense that's been working together for a little bit now. And I didn't find any key transfers in to possibly be on the defensive side of the ball, but we'll see what an experienced defense can do against an offense that's once again breaking in new QB and really learning to do stuff with each other here.
RJ, going back to the, maybe the excitement level or expectation, what is the talk like in Madison amongst fans? What's the word on the street surrounding, this team after last year heading into the season with the new coaching staff and all that? What is that narrative like in Madison right now surrounding this team?
Most people I've talked to and reading some of the press, most people are looking at the 6.5 wins and taking the under. So the expectations are much lower than they were last year, where, hey, we got this new shiny new toy. It's going to be great. And we'll take care of everything because that's what Wisconsin does. And, even for a couple seasons since COVID, Wisconsin hadn't been doing what Wisconsin does. So I think the major thing here is a lot of people think they were oversold by a snake oil salesman right now, and they need to see everything that was promised of a new culture, a attacking style defense, an offense that isn't the air raid but is a very well balanced spread I formation without the fullback. They want to see everything they were promised, especially on the offensive side of the ball, come to light and be able to see it on game days.
RJ, give me a player that you think, from what you've heard, what you've maybe watched or read about or anything like that, maybe kind of give me like an underrated player that us Badger fans should really pay attention to this year, you think?
Oh man, I mean, it could be somebody on the D line now that we have. But most of the key players that we're going to find, a lot of guys are returning. So it's not like an under the radar guy, but it's man, trying to think of just. I mean, it could be any one of the transfers on defense. Like pick one of them, and those guys are already in the two deep. So it's because like I'm thinking offensively, but those names are all there. Maybe when people actually get to see Tywee Walker, they'll be pretty impressed in his skill set, and since that's a new name, I'll go with him. A transfer from Oklahoma at running back who will be helping take some snaps from Ches Malusi in hopes of keeping him healthy. But let's go with Walker and say I think his skill set in this offense will be put on full show, and we'll see a backfield of Wisconsin, if it stays fully healthy, hopefully pushing for a couple of 1,000-yard rushers.
I was going to ask you to Ches Malusi, if he stays healthy, kind of almost a prediction thing here. Ches Malusi, if he stays healthy within this offense, is he a guy that you think can easily top over 1,000 yards on the ground?
I think so. This is a offense that when Longo was running it had 1,000-yard receivers, 1,000-yard rushers, and it's a style that helps create less of a burden on the inside the box for the offensive line and the running backs. So, I mean, when he was first here under Chris, he got injured and was at 800 yards. He was on pace last year, and in 4 games he had 300 yards rushing. So it's one of those, like, you take his stats and kind of expound upon them. You could say, had he not gotten injured, he could have 2 seasons here of 1,000-yard rushing already. So I think staying healthy, I think we see Ches show all that potential he had since he got here. And I mean, we kind of saw it in his first year here, but like I said, it turns into a injury plagued, and then the 18-year-old kid was playing, and it's so I think if we see no injuries for Malusi, it's going to be one of those, this is what we've been waiting for, and it'll be a pretty darn good season.
All right, it's prediction time, RJ. Before I let you go, how do you see this game playing off? And will you be there checking out some of the new stuff at Camp Brandel?
Oh, I will.
Yeah. You going to partake in the alcohol sales over there for the first time too?
I don't know. I mean, it's cheaper to have a couple of barley pops before you go in. So, it's it's a tough one because I don't believe we covered many spreads last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can. Because is it 24 or 24 and a half? I think I saw 24.
That's tough for the first game. 24, man.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those. I like for some reason, like 31-20 is what was sticking out to me. I mean, it's not a cover, and like I said, I don't know if I can pick a cover right now. I would. It's just there's too many questions with that quarterback position. I kind of need to watch this happen first. I'll gladly be wrong. Wisconsin will still win, but I'll gladly be wrong and then hope they cover. But right now, I mean, Iowa put up 41 on them last year. They're returning most of the same guys. It's been tearing me up. Like I truly have been thinking about this for a couple days now and haven't been able to figure out where Wisconsin's going to be. So maybe I'll say 38 to 20, and still not a cover, but Wisconsin's offense is able to put up some some good looking numbers, and the defense maybe has some issues stopping the running attack of Western Michigan. But hopefully, all in all, because like I said, Western Michigan last year against the Power 5 conferences kind of looked pedestrian, and even when they played MAC teams, they lost, even though they put up some gaudy rushing numbers and things like that. But yeah, I'll go with that, and hopefully I'm wrong, and it's more of a blowout than we can imagine.
All right, I like it. He's RJ Cardinal, talking all things Badgers with us this morning. Dude, appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the game Friday, and looking forward to catching up with you next Tuesday, buddy.
Sounds good. We will talk to you then.
You got it. There you go. RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. And boy, we got breaking news already. Packers making some cuts. They've released Toure, Caleb Jones, and Anders Carlson. Packers have released, according to multiple media members out there, including some local beat reporters, Anders Carlson has been released by the Packers. So kicking change coming in Green Bay. Don't know if that means Greg Joseph is going to have the job, if there's something else in the works right now, but multiple reports out there, Anders Carlson has been released. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll do some picks and predicts coming up after these quick words. In case you missed it before we headed to break there, Packers have started to make some moves in terms of trimming their roster as they have to get down to their initial 53-man roster by this afternoon. 3 players that I've seen so far that have apparently been released. Samari Toure, the wide receiver, Caleb Jones, the massive offensive tackle, and Anders Carlson. Our Anders Carlson has been released. No idea if that means Greg Joseph has made the team. I haven't seen anything about that. Or if Green Bay is potentially working on another deal, maybe a trade for a kicker, or do they have somebody eyed up as free agency, or do they think they're going to be able to find somebody on waivers? I don't know, but you have to wonder. I'm just going to throw this out there before we do some picks and predicts. You have to wonder, did that chip shot field goal on Saturday from Anders seal the deal? Seal his fate? Because I think a lot of us, I was one of them, you heard Joe talk about it, and a lot of us, when he hit that 50-40 yarder, like, oh, okay, I think it might be his. But then you miss the chip shot, and it's like, ugh. You have to wonder, did that seal the deal? Seal his fate? So, but I'm definitely curious to see where they go from here. Who will be the kicker? So, Ryan Wood he just tweeted us out, who covers Packers. Have to wonder what happens if not for pushing that 32-yarder wide right. Just no coming back from that. Anders Carlson seemed to know in the locker room after. Interesting perspective. Definitely interesting. All right, let's do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Hey, you're looking for somewhere to catch the game next Friday because maybe you don't have the proper streaming services and such. Hey, Elbow Room has you covered. All right, go watch the game over there. You got some drink specials going on for the Green Bay game at next Friday at the Elbow Room as they take on Philadelphia to kick off the season. So you're looking for somewhere to watch it, look no further than the Elbow Room, located right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire. We got a few baseball games to be picking here today. Got some really good matchups. Today's a good day if you guys stay inside, depending on what the weather's like and such. It's good. There's some good baseball games coming up here. Houston at Philly. Justin Verlander taking on Aaron Nola. I'm going to go Houston. Philly got the extra innings win last night, but I'm going to go Houston tonight. Kansas City taking on Cleveland. Kansas City taking both games yesterday. Man, that's a good one. Gavin Williams on the mound for Cleveland. I'm going to go Cleveland. I'll go Cleveland, bounces back and gets the W tonight. Let's go. Hudson disagrees. Let's go with Atlanta taking on the Twins. Atlanta picked up the win last night. I'm going to go with the Twinnies tonight, though. We've got Padres at St. Louis. I'm going to go with the Padres. Mets at the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks so hot. Give me the Diamondbacks tonight. Tampa Bay at Seattle. Seattle's trying to keep pace with Houston over there. I think Seattle picks up a win tonight. Baltimore at the Dodgers. This one's spicy here. I'll go with the Dodgers tonight. And then Giants at the Brewers. I think this is a fantastic pitching matchup. Logan Webb versus Tobias Myers. Logan is he's had an amazing, a really good month of August. We know Tobias has been one of the best pitchers since the month of June. And Logan has just been eating up innings. Going 8, 7, 7, 6, and 9. I'm going to go Giants tonight. And I hope that's my reverse psychology working a little bit there too. So those are your picks and predicts, again, brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. So still nothing. We had John texted in. Hopefully the Packers sign a kicker. Greg Joseph, definitely not the answer. I'm definitely intrigued to see where they go with this thing. I'll say this. With a couple of moves that the Packers made last night and today, trading for Malik Willis, and now releasing Anders Carlson. Anders, a rookie last year. Clifford, a rookie last year. Draft picks from Goody. Sure seems like Green Bay's not messing around right now. Doesn't matter if you're a draft pick entering your second year. You either perform at a high level or you're out. Doesn't seem like Goody is, because I think you can make the case. Ted Thompson was like this. Maybe held on to his picks a little bit longer than he should have. If you were drafted, you were almost if you were a draft pick, you were almost locked to make the team for the next couple of years. It felt like that way, and there's a lot of examples of that. But right now, Goody ain't holding on too long to his picks if they're not playing well. You either perform at the level that we expect you to, perform at a high level, or you're out. Green Bay ain't screwing around right now. Or at least they ain't screwing around heading into this season. Expectations are pretty darn high. They're bringing in a brand new backup quarterback, and, well, we'll see what they do with the kicker. But they're moving on from their kicker from last year, who they thought at that point in time not to bring in any competition for, and I don't know if that was a cause for all this. Would he have performed better if he had competition? Who knows? Hindsight's 20/20. But this is one thing I will say. If you're a Packers fan, I think you could tell from your team, they know what's at stake. They know what the expectation is, and they ain't going to screw around with it. They want guys in that are going to perform at a high level, that are going to perform well. All right. I only got about 30 seconds left. Big thanks to everybody who texted in, chimed in, listened, all that good stuff. Even seriously, if you haven't texted in yet, if you're a first-time listener, or if you're a long-time listener, first-time or non-texter yet, I want to hear from you, all right? Hit me up with some text, comment on the video streams, hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Join in the conversation. Join our group over here, all right? So looking, especially with football season coming up here too. So, but DP and Dan Nuts, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back at it already, making a turn on the week tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. Talk to you then.